Patch 5.4 is pretty much set in stone now. So the preparations that I've got myself to do for the past few weeks, I've literally been on my paladin farming for herbs, farming for all the mats I can get. I've bought loads of sort of scrolls ready for my enchants. I've got all my flasks sort of ready now. I think I need to get about another 20 sort of more flasks to farm. All my potions are ready. I've got about 250 stacks of those, and as well as my food, I've now got about 100 servings of food, the 300 agility food. So in terms of preparation, in terms of what I can sort of give to myself for the raids and be ready for, it's pretty much done now. Luckily the due date has gone back now to the 10th of September, so now I've got a bit more time to sort of drop my skin in, get rid of the crit bonus and go for a profession that's a bit more beneficial to me, really. I'm torn between a few that I haven't really done yet, but primarily I'm thinking of engineering, especially for a Brewmaster Monk. The Synapse Springs, the agility on use would be really, really nice in terms of using it with either when I've got the Wolf up, or I use Elusive Brew, maybe stack it up with Elusive Brew when I've got about 12-15 seconds of Elusive Brew up, or even after the Elusive Brew's dropped off and I've got the stagger bonus from the 2-set bonus. That could be really, really, really good. So it's a lot of playing around and a lot of testing, but I'm looking forward to seeing how it is, and as well as the rocket boots, of course, and the glider, more mobility for a Brewmaster Monk. I mean, we get enough already as it is, especially if you spec into Clarity or Tiger's Lust, and then you've got your more rolls, your sprint bonus. There's just so many things that we can sort of get to and from different zones. Even if you're Windwalker in my secondary spec, Flying Serpent, kick, rocket boosts, it could be really, really good for me. So that's what I'm sort of going to go for next in terms of profession wise. Get that sorted, get that maxed out before 5.4. So I've got all my sort of things that I need, the Synapse Springs and the rockets, and I always say they're rocket boots because primarily they thought they were, but it's a belt tinker, I think. Anyway, that's the preparations for 5.4 for me. There's been really, really exciting things. Pretty much Twitter's been blown up by a load of new sort of things that have been released on MMO Champion, on Warcraft. There's tons of things that have been released. The beta for Hearthstone's been out for a few days now, I think, and a lot of the big American bloggers and the vloggers, as well as the podcasters as well, they've been going absolutely crazy over the Hearthstone beta. It looks awesome. The one major thing though is they don't have a monk class deck. Now for me that's really irritating because I'm really into the monk class at the moment and the whole feel for the monk. It's just a real shame that they haven't sort of made a deck like a support deck, or a really strong defensive deck for the monk players. I mean, it's nice that they've got the original, the preset classes, the hunters, the mage, the warlocks, the warriors, the paladins, but what about the monk players and the DK players? There's a few of us out there that would be interested in seeing that. They may release it, or you might have to buy the deck for some silly amount of money, but I think I'm going to go with either a Shaman or a Paladin deck, primarily because I've played them before and I like the aesthetic feel of, the general feel of the class. I like the feel of the Shaman, I like the elements, and I like the monk. It's a shame we can't be a monk, but beggars can't be choosers in that regard, so we've just got to make do with what we got. Also that's been announced is the new expansion for Diablo 3, which is the Reaper of Souls, which is pretty much revolved around a demigod or a fallen archangel of the wisdom. Can't really remember his name, even though I watched it this morning. I was more blown away by the whole cinematic, because the Diablo 3 cinematics seem to be top notch, really, really good. And I've always been a big Diablo fan. I mean, when Diablo 3 first came out and I played it religiously, got to the last difficulty, the highest difficulty that you could do, and that's when you really got to sort of think about your stats, where you put your stats, what gear you're going for, vitality gear, you're going for life or steel gear, Once I got to that sort of part, and it just became more of a chore, and the loot system was ridiculous. I mean, you could spend hours and hours going after the loot you want, and then for all you know, you look on the AH for about 5-10 minutes and there's silly amount of gear, stupid amounts of prices. It was more of a loot grind than anything. I didn't really like that, so I sort of stopped playing it pretty much since then. I saw the Paragon levels they brought out, and that was okay, I guess. A lot of other games are using that. They could have been a bit different. Even if they named it differently, it did something. But the expansion looks good. The only also another drawback is they're bringing out one new class, the Crusader. If you're familiar with the World of Warcraft expansions, where you get like a hero class, the DK, then you've got the monk. It's okay because there's a lot of classes in World of Warcraft. With the four classes they brought out with the release of Diablo 3. You know, you wasn't really limited. It was nice to see something that's a different archetype from the usual sort of classes that you can be. You know, instead of just the hunter or the ranger or the warrior. You know, you had the witch doctor, which is really, really cool. Really sort of good idea behind it. You know, so they could build so much more upon it. And then you had the demon hunter, which used the hatred and the, I think it was discipline, I think. Because I haven't played it that much on that class, but you know, it was really good. You had two different energy resources, kind of like a monk, I guess. And I just wish they sort of brought out more classes as well as the Crusader, something a bit different. I wouldn't like to give suggestions, but that's what the devs' job's for. So yeah, a lot of good things coming, and I'm pretty much stoked on all the new sort of events. The BlizzCon that's coming up, the Gamescom, you've got PAX. So yeah, there's a lot to look out for, and I shall be posting it as much as I can. There's so many new ways to sort of find out information on the new things that are coming out, and a really, really good way that's been recently is a monk podcast, primarily for monks, made by monks. It's a group of players from the US, a number of them from a CTR guild in Airy Peak, and a very, very well-known brewmaster monk named Sonia. You'll find her blog online on Icy Veins. Pretty much all forums revolve around the brewmasters, whether it be how to play. You know, they're always directed into her blog, and people might be familiar with her weak chorus section. I can't play the brewmaster monk practically well without those. They're brilliant weak auras, and word is that she wants to make a proper based add-on for them instead of weak auras. But you know, the weak auras, it's simpler to set up for newer players and for advanced players, and it works. It really is good. But anyway, yeah, they're you know, they sort of explain a lot of new things that's coming out, a lot of new things in the community that's bubbling up, and you know, things to look out for. So if you've got a few minutes, I honestly would suggest, you know, really suggest watching it. It's on every 2 weeks on a Tuesday. The UK time for that is 2 AM in the morning, which is a killer for when you've got work the next day. But you know, you've got to make that sacrifice to sort of be part of it, I guess, and it's not that much of a big deal being up at that time. I enjoy it, so I don't see why not. So yeah, you can also find them on Twitter. I haven't got the exact Twitter at names, but if you watch the monk meditation, you know, they'll pretty much tell you all about the people, the co-hosts. El, the Windwalker Monk, Chai-T, the Windwalker Monk, Sonia, the Brewmaster Monk, and then you've got Daikatsu, the Mistweaver, and then you've got Nayuki, who I seem to keep forgetting in terms of thinking he's somebody else, and then there's another guy that's in the podcast that I've got on Twitter that I thought was him. Yeah, there's a bit of confusion there, but he's a really good player, really good Mistweaver. They're all really solid players. They all give their opinions on their class, on their specs, and what they'd like to see, and tactics and strategies for different bosses. So if you're interested in making a monk, wondering, you know, what sort of specs are good, you know, what sort of talents are good for in certain situations, it's a good thing to watch. They do a whole different bunch of sort of sections or segments in their podcast dedicated to the Brewmaster or the Windwalker or the Mistweaver or certain bosses, and it's a really good watch. So you'll see me talking to them quite a bit on Twitter at Vaylen EU, and you can always follow me on there. Follow those guys; they'll be on my following list, and just sort of get a heads up in the community. I mean, the monk community has been really good. The new podcast, like I've said, I can't say it enough. It's a really good podcast. It's got so much potential. I mean, so much potential. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do and what they say about the 5.4 when it's released, and how Sonya gets on with her heroic raiding once the priest gets back. And yeah, there's a lot of exciting things. So I'm going to be doing a vlog every week, updates and whatnot, what I'm doing, what I'm finding online, and pretty much updating you guys with it, as well as the blog posts that you'll find on Icy Veins and MMO and the Fort Whale forums and the Ragnaros forums and stuff like that. So I hope this was a bit not too formal. I'll be doing more. I'll get a bit more editing software soon to make it a bit better, but for now I shall see you guys soon. Stay strong, keep the chi, Zen Med, cast bow, out.